So this one is messed up along with every other shooting that happens that I talk about. They're all messed up, whether it's a white person or a black person who gets shot, whether it's the cops who shot him or somebody else who shot him. It's always messed up, but it's so nuanced, and a lot of the reporting on it just kind of stops at the surface level, obviously to mislead people into believing certain things that are not true or to sway them in a certain direction to try to push a certain agenda, and this situation is no different. So a guy by the name of Dexter Reed was shot a couple of days ago by cops, and they fired 96 shots at him and to his car in a span of about 40 seconds to a minute. That's a lot of freaking shots in such a short amount of time. And it's messed up, but that's what happened. Now, these cops stopped him, and it wasn't for anything major, but, I mean, they still performed the stop nonetheless. And this is, at that point, is when I just want to grab black people and just say, just do what it is that you're being asked to do. Because it prevents, in most cases, it prevents situations like this from occurring, and then narratives like this being formed. But regardless, they stopped him and telling him to turn the car off, get out of the car, stop moving your hands. It's just the normal stuff. And as soon as the door opens, he has a gun and he shoots one of them, and then all hell breaks loose. They start shooting, and like I said, they shot him damn near 100 times in less than a minute. That's a lot of shooting, dog. And most people's first mind is to look at this and be like, racism. White cop, at least from the body cam that we saw, the cop was white. Black dude, if the dude who they were stopping was white and that dude shot at them, they would have took it with a smile on their face and offered him food. Hey, you want to go to Burger King while we take you to jail type deal? To me, that's just a surface level way of thinking about it. Now, there's bad policing in the world. Trust and believe. I saw a video a couple weeks ago of an acorn falling on a cop's car, and he thought that somebody was shooting at him, and he just starts shooting out into the world. He's telling the other cops that he got hit.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! You know. I'm hit! What? I'm in the car! I was shot through the car!
And I'm like, dog, like, okay. That might be real bad policing right there, because I'm not out there, so I'm not trying to judge, but that individual might need to get checked out. But when it comes to this, I don't think it's that simple to just be like, this is a case of bad racist policing. And each time something like this happens, I feel compelled to have to come on here and say this, because I think it's very, very necessary. You got to understand the dynamic of a cop who approaches a civilian. For the most part, us as civilians, we know what cops have on them. Even if we think the stop is BS, if we don't like cops, if we're having a bad day, we know that these officers, at the very least, have a gun on them. So they can kill you anytime that they want, or if they feel like they have to protect themselves. Cops do not share that same luxury. They approach you. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you have on you. So everybody wants to harp on cops because they use deadly force, and they might feel like they do it in an excessive manner. I have seen plenty of videos in which a cop approaches someone and they don't have their hand on their gun, or they don't have their gun drawn, and a civilian is acting like they're being calm until they pull out a gun, or they pull out a knife or a weapon or something like that, and then they start going ham. I saw one not too long ago of these two cops who approached a car. They didn't have guns drawn or anything like that. The dude is acting calm, and then as soon as he gets out the car, pulls out a gun. He either pulled out a gun or he took the gun from one of the cops and shot both of them. But you don't see that surfacing around, because we got to pick sides. It's either the civilians, primarily the black ones, or it's the cops. When they get popped, it's like, okay, who cares, right? Not a score 6-24 type deal, if you know what I'm saying. So it's like, you got to keep that in mind, is that they don't know what they're walking into. So they are on edge already. And although you might not like cops, I'm pretty sure you want to make it home alive, right? I'm pretty sure that should supersede any feeling that you have toward a police officer. It should, at least, especially if you got kids or you got a family. In this case, this dude has a mother, uncles doing interviews, his dad. I'm like, dog, you have people in your life. Yet everybody's gonna look at this video and be like, oh my goodness, these racist cops just shot this man 100 times because he's black. They're not gonna be like, oh wow, these cops, they just shot this man because he shot at them first. And yeah, maybe 100 is excessive, but once again, we're not in the shoes of someone who is experiencing a potential life or death situation where it's either them or me. And trust and believe, you can't fully understand it until you're in that situation. Hell, I don't fully understand it, which is why I'm trying to be empathetic to maybe what somebody in that position is going through, which is at any point on this job, you can get popped. Or if you pop someone, now your life is over because you can be dragged through the streets as a racist simply because the court of public opinion has deemed that to be the case without knowing much of anything regarding the nuanced details of the situation, other than the fact that you're white and the person that you shot is black. Now, this country has done itself no favors when it comes to how policing is now and how policing used to be. Policing used to be openly and outwardly racist, right? So anything that happens nowadays, if someone comes along to defend it, it's like, dog, you're defending a racist institution that is irredeemable. What the hell is wrong with you? And although the past is the past and it was very, very real, and some of it still bleeds over into today, you got to be able to separate yourself from it to be able to think rationally about stuff like this. Because I'll see this video and then I'll look at the next one of his mother, which, like I said, I feel horrible about. So I try to talk about this stuff in as sensitive of a manner as I can. But I see his mom and his fam talking about how like he was just riding around, or how they, shot him too many times or whatnot. It's messed up and it's hard to watch, and I feel, right? I feel for these people. I really do. Because it's messed up. And I mean, just here's like a piece of it.
He had just bought his new car 3 days before that. And he was just riding around in his car. He said, Mom, going for a ride. And they killed him. They killed him. He's already dead. Why you study shooting him like that? They killed my son and they killed me too.
One of the family's attorneys argues this never should have happened in the first place.
There was a weapon recovered in his car. However, it started with an unconstitutional, pretextual, and unnecessary stop of Dexter Reed. And that's what precipitated the entire incident.
Stop my nephew, he'll be alive today.
And therein lies the problem, right? Is you hear from the lawyer, the uncle, the mom. Like I said, I preface this when I say I feel, right, dog, because it's messed up. But all I hear is that, well, he would still be alive if the cops didn't stop him. Or he'd still be alive if the cops didn't do this or if they didn't do that. And I'm like, man, this is the problem when it comes to the relationship between cops and civilians, and specifically cops and black people, is the lack of accountability is such a problem. It's such a problem because if you baby, like, I'm going to just say us, right? Because that's who's at the helm of this relationship. Is black people and cops. If you baby black people and instill the narrative within American society that we are at fault for nothing, this stuff will continue to happen. If a black person is pulled over and they feel like if I just scream Black Lives Matter, well, that's my get out of jail free card, so to speak. This stuff will continue to happen. If you get pulled over as a black person and you already have preconceived notions about how bad cops are, and you got that thing on you and you want to pull it out because it's like, nah, you not pulling me over today, even if it's for something as simple as you ain't have your seatbelt on or your tint is too dark. You can get out of that situation in 5 minutes unless you don't have a license, or unless you ain't got no insurance, or unless you got warrants. Well, then those conversations run deeper as well. But people think that they're doing black people a service when they put all the blame on the cops, because they'll be like, yeah, Dexter Reed had a gun in his car, but he'd still be alive if the cops never pulled him over. It's like, man, you cannot keep pushing the narrative in that direction. You can't, because what you're doing is you're contributing to these situations occurring, right? Because we're going to sit back here and we're going to be like, okay, well, as long as a cop don't pull me over, well, then I'll be good. But once they do, I'm screwed. Simply because all the blame should be put on them and none of it should be put on me or anybody else. That's a problem, dog. And I wouldn't put it past a lawyer to be doing that on purpose, because if you get a whole bunch of dead people at the hands of cops, well, you got people hiring you. So, I mean, that's a hell of a lot more money in your pocket. than if this stuff wasn't happening. Now, that's just me thinking real deep about it. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a factor at play. But at the baseline, this country feels bad for black people for a number of reasons. And I understand it to a degree, but it is so counterproductive and it drives me insane, man. It drives me insane because we then begin to encourage a lack of accountability from our side when it comes to these situations. You want to talk about he'd still be alive if the cops didn't pull him over? Obviously. But you want to know what else would have happened? He would have still been alive if he hadn't pulled a gun out on them. And I'd be willing to bet a lot of money on that. Is if you just comply with what these people are saying. I'm not saying that that's foolproof, that it's always going to work. Because yes, you do have bad cops out there. You do. And I know that the poster child for bad cops is white people. But I've seen black cops conduct poor policing. So it doesn't just swing one way. And fun fact, there was a black cop on the scene who contributed to the 96 shots. So the narrative, of course, is always these white people then killed this black dude. We're not going to acknowledge the fact that a black dude was there who was popping this man as well. But regardless, you cannot keep doing this and thinking that the situation is going to change in this country. You just cannot do it. I remember when all the George Floyd stuff was happening, this one dude, I can't think of his name, but they shot him in the back like 9 times or something like that. And I think it was the WNBA who like wore a shirt with 9 bullet holes or something like that on the back of it as a way to show their solidarity with him. And I'm like, dog, watch the video. After they tased this man, he's still walking through that mug like the Hulk, going at him. And then they shot him trying to put him down. Now, he lived, which is a good thing. But no one, and I mean no one in the mainstream media or in the government was like, bro, if you would have just did what the cops told you to do, you increase your chances of getting out of here unscathed. You might go to jail, right? But being black does not exempt you from that reality if you've been committing crimes. So I circle back to this situation and I'm like, man, all these articles and all these people reporting on it, talking about he'd still be alive if these white cops didn't pull him over and conduct some unlawful stop. I'm like, man, you are only contributing to the statistic of cops shooting black people. You're only contributing to that, because what you are doing is you are instilling in the minds of people who get pulled over, especially black people, that if I get pulled over, I don't have to do what this cop who has a gun, I don't have to do what they tell me to do. I can do whatever the hell I want to do, and they just got to deal with it, which is the dumbest thing ever, because I guarantee you, and I'd bet anything on this, that if homeboy shot these cops and killed them and they arrested him because he was no longer being violent and they just took him to jail, we wouldn't have heard about it. You want to know why? It's because it's a black dude who then shot these cops. Now the score goes up, right? It start beginning to even out. That's how this would have gone. But because he shot at them and it wasn't fatal and he got popped as a result, now it turns into, it was this innocent black dude who was just riding around. He got unlawfully stopped and they put a cap in him because he's a darker shade. Case closed, end of story, and that's what we're going to run with. Crazy. That's crazy. And it's so misleading and it's extremely detrimental, because you see stuff like this and you be like, how the hell does this keep happening? Oh, I wonder why. It's because people, they get in these stops and they say, F any authority, I'm just going to do whatever it is that I want to do. And this is not a pro-cop speech, so to speak. This is me saying, hey, acknowledge the fact that the person who just pulled you over has a gun, right? Just acknowledge that fact. You can worry about whether you think it was a lawful stop or not later, but just acknowledging that fact and then having just the slightest bit of compassion for the fact that, especially if they're a quote-unquote good cop, a sensible person, that there's someone who is just trying to do their job, but their job is filled with so much unknown. They're walking into a situation in which they are unaware of what it is that they're about to run up against. The stop can last 5 minutes and be real peaceful, or it can last 20 minutes and end fatal. So my heart goes out to this individual's family, because regardless of what the situation is, I mean, you wake up and You don't expect this stuff to happen, and then you go on the internet and you see your son or your cousin or your brother or your nephew or whoever getting shot by the police or just getting shot by anybody. Is messed up. So from that perspective of me just being a human being, I have compassion and I feel. But from a practical side of it, when it comes to the implications of this situation and how it is reported, how it is talked about, this cannot keep happening. People cannot keep discussing it in this manner and then expecting something to change. So babying us as African Americans is among the more detrimental things you can do to this community, whether it's because you hate yourself or you're ashamed of who you are, or you hate this country, or you feel sorry for us. It doesn't matter. It's very, very detrimental, because up and down the line, I've seen people put full blame on the officers and acquit this man of any wrongdoing. I don't know how you look at this and come to that conclusion, but people are doing it. It's not productive. It's not beneficial. It's just not, dog. So keep that in mind. Hopefully this stuff don't happen again, but that's just wishful thinking. I understand the world that we live in. If it is to happen again, keep that in mind. Is you have to be accountable for what it is that you do. How you act, how you behave, that is all within your control. And yes, this world is not perfect, so you can cross your T's and dot your I's, and bad stuff can still happen, and it's unfortunate. And when those situations occur, yes, call out the perps and throw the book at them. Trust and believe I'll be first in line to do it. But in situations like these, where it's clear that this dude just made a really, really bad decision in that moment and paid for it with his life, that's not indicative of an unfortunate racist incident that occurred between a white cop and a black man. It's just an unfortunate incident that, in my opinion, could have been prevented had this dude just done what they asked him to do. Something to think about.